children. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible realization when you realize that what you've done to keep a child well has actually done some damage in a subset of children.
Nobody wants to say that we've poisoned an entire generation, almost 2 generations of American children. When you start to understand the implications of how many millions of children are mercury poisoned out there, it's a direct threat to our future. We're going to spend a lifetime caring for what's an ocean, an endless ocean of children who will become adults and old people. And these people who have autism or autism spectrum or even ADD, ADHD, their lives are not going to be very productive. They need medications, they need medical care, they need institutional care. It's not pretty.
It's the most shameful thing ever, that we have devastated our children, that we have put them in harm's way. We chose to do it, and we're choosing not to look at it. What kind of human beings could we be? How shameful is that? And imagine being, someone whose career was based on trying to help society, and it turns out that the evidence starts to come in that you didn't mean to, but it turns out that you were hurting some folks, that you were hurting children, and your whole life you thought you weren't. How do you deal with that shame?
There are a variety of treatments that people have tried for this group of children. And one of the things that I would caution about when we think about children with autism is that these are children with a variety of presentations. We don't talk about autism anymore, we talk about autisms. And one of the things that's really important about that is that not every child is going to respond to the same intervention.
The only way you can have your best chance of recovery is to be in the best possible nutritional status and lead a healthy lifestyle. And I think we all know that Americans don't do that.
In a nationwide study, researchers found that on a typical day, fast food was the main food source for 29 to 38% of children.
When I interview families for the first visit, I'm trying to get a picture of how well the child eats, because I want to get a picture of nutritional intake and nutritional status, and then I do testing to determine exactly what those things are, whether they're mineral deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, protein deficiencies, and to the best of my ability I correct those, which usually involves healing the gut, because in my practice 80% of children with autism have significant bowel disease.
I'm classically educated. I did my residency at Tufts. I've done 2 fellowships, one at Harvard and one at Tufts. I'm not an alternative practitioner, but once I saw children improve, I couldn't turn my back on it. Once you know the truth, you can't walk away.
When you look at what are the various biomedical treatments for our patients, we basically start with cleaning up the environment, and then we go to cleaning up their diet. There are numerous products in their diet that could be harming them. For instance, hormones in the meat that they're eating, or pesticides and herbicides in their food. But we found one particular type of diet extremely helpful for our patients, and that's a dairy-free and gluten-free diet.
How do her therapists, her teachers, feel that she's doing?
Since the diet, everyone has remarked she's just a new kid.
Today, a small but growing number of doctors are offering their patients natural biomedical treatments for autism, giving parents approaches to recovering their children previously unavailable.
9 months, 10 months away from kindergarten, so we do have some work to do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I'm noticing a huge rise in cow milk sensitivity in children. Now, it's not just allergy. It's not the typical hives and wheezing and skin rash. They are more subtle signs. Insomnia, restless sleep, inattention, lack of focus, bedwetting, burping, gas, belly distension, lots of gas, diarrhea, mood disorders, behavioral problems, a lot of these more subtle changes that look more like sensitivities rather than the full-blown allergies.
The casein or gluten-free diets, these are really regarded as the elimination of allergens. That the casein, the protein that's in milk products, the gluten that's in many wheat products, that those particular proteins, some kids are allergic to them. And by allergic, I mean that they have an inflammatory response in their intestine when they have those things in their diet.
It's really important to look at removing all the other junk. So that's one of the first things I really recommend to parents is get out the artificial colors, the artificial flavors, the preservatives, the MSG, all of these compounds that overload their detoxification system and overload and start to impact on the brain and create hyperactivity and inattentiveness. So that's one of the first things I usually recommend is getting all that artificial stuff out of the diet.
Because our knowledge of the biochemistry of what's going on in autism has exploded over the last 10 years, parents are left being scientists using their child as the control in many ways. And I always recommend they start new interventions one at a time and document any positive effects or negative effects.
Parents are discovering treatments. They're finding ways to help their children. They're working together with a whole set of open-minded clinicians. They're finding that therapies doesn't need to be a drug. Maybe you can find a diet, a new kind of diet that will help your child, that certain kinds of foods exacerbate the immune problems that are hurting these children, and the removal of those foods can make them feel better, can make their guts work better, can get rid of diarrhea and constipation, which make them available to learn.
From the medical perspective, at least from our perspective on the GI end, we think diets make a difference for a good number of these children. And it's been our experience that at least any number of children will do better on a milk-free diet or some other dietary restriction.
I make very strong recommendations to parents about changing the diet. And many of these parents look at me and say, "You've got to be kidding me. You want me to take away milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, sour cream, soy products, dyes, preservatives, additives, food colorings, MSG. You want me to limit the amount of flour and sugar and cereal and bread, pasta, crackers, cookies, pancakes, waffles, donuts, muffins, pretzels, bagels that they're getting? What are they supposed to eat?" Every parent that's able to go with the changes sees some difference in their children. Again, we don't know the limitations of these children, but little by little, as we peel the layers of an onion, we start to see these children emerge, and we really can get in there and take care of them the way they most individually need. And these children do really well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jax.
After taking Jackson to a biomedical doctor who told us to take like everything out of his diet, everything. And I remember thinking the doctor was crazy. And within 3 days, he had his first normal bowel movement that he had had in over a year.
I can remember my husband urging me to initially go gluten-free, casein-free, GFCF. And no, I'm not going to do that. And it was with much reluctance that I decided to try the diet. He liked bagels and cream cheese and pancakes and macaroni and cheese and pizza. You know, you put gluten and dairy together and that was his diet. So I pulled everything. And he had 2 weeks of, he literally cried 24 hours a day, and I just didn't give in. And in fact, it was sort of like at my husband, like, I'm not, see how awful he is? And at the 2-week mark, you could just see the fog lift. You could see the eye contact come in. He stopped crying so much.
What's this? A wheel. That's right. A wheel.
He had perfect stool, stopped scripting, graduated occupational therapy, and then we redid a test. No bacteria. He had a bunch of very bad bacteria in his stool. His yeast was off the chart, plus it was just so bad. No yeast, no bacteria, and the levels of intestinal inflammation were 5